All right, two more questions, everybody. I love answering these, and I know that if you're listening, you likely have your questions. Please do send them in. You can send them to info@contractdiagnostics.com, and we can record an answer to your question as well. But we have a couple here. One, student loans. What if you don't have them and others do? What if your employer is offering reimbursement for student loans and they're not offering it to you because you don't have student loans? This is not in the question, but I'll throw another one in there. What if you don't have formal student loans through a lender, but you have private student loans? I've heard this one from some of my customers. Maybe you had a family member or somebody that you knew, or a different way of getting financing for your student loans, and it didn't come from a traditional institution. What then? So a few things. First off, we do see student loan reimbursement in many contracts. We saw it go away for a few years, from about 2020, 2021 to about 22, 23. We've seen it come back in 24. I anticipate it higher in 25 as far as what they're offering physicians for incentive packages. I think it would have been different had the non-compete ban been complete and banned all non-competes, but that's a different discussion. But we do see non-competes. I don't know the number off the top of my head, to be honest. If I had to guess, I would say probably in about 16, 17, 18% of physician contracts offer some type of student loan help or reimbursement. So it can be set up multiple ways. One, it can be a lump sum upfront. We will give you $100,000 today for your student loans, and then you owe us 5 years of service, and then we'll take off 1/60th of that balance every single month. If you leave, you've got to pay us back the balance. Some would say you have to pay us back the full 100 and interest on top. So be careful on how your repayment provisions are worded. You may not have 100,000, so then what? You may not want that because you're tied for 5 years. So be able to negotiate away from those things if there's other incentives you would like to trade it for, if possible. Another thing that we'll just see a flat dollar amount. 20,000 per year, 25,000 per year. It's important to know, is it paid at the beginning of the year, the end of the year, or every single month? How is it paid? How is it taxed? And how is it forgiven? Again, all very important things to know around any piece of compensation or incentive. Sometimes we just see monthly, $2,000 a month just dumped into the student loans or dumped into your paycheck. So know which one on all of these, whether it's $100,000 up front, 20,000 per year until their loans are gone and dead, $2,000 per month, 25,000 at the end of the year or at the beginning of the year. It's important to know how those things are taxed, how they're structured, and how they're paid. Some go directly to the institution that you owe. Some come directly to you. So if it's coming directly to you, do you have to use them for student loans? Well, it depends on the wording of the contract. Maybe you could. Maybe you could use it for your mortgage payment. Maybe you could use it to fund your kid's college or take a vacation or donate it to your favorite charity. Maybe you don't have student loans, but they're going to call it student loans and give it to you every single month. And you can do with that money what you wish. Again, it's important to understand the verbiage in the contract. The intent of the employer does matter as well. So student loans are very important for those, the reimbursement of them, I should say, for those who have them. It can be a way to offset that burden of that heavy student loan that physicians often have. Of course, there's the public system, the public student loan finance, I think it's called. And if you are working for a nonprofit, I believe it's for 10 years. I'm not the student loan expert. We have people on staff here who are. I can connect you with them if you have questions on it. But if you work for a nonprofit institution for 10 years, they wipe out the balance. So that's fantastic. Know if your residency counts towards that and if your institution aligns with that goal. I've heard that just because your institution is a nonprofit does not mean you're guaranteed to have forgiveness. You still have to apply to the program. You still have to be accepted, and you still have to complete the 10 years of a nonprofit work. So those are all ways that student loans can be structured in a contract. Now, what if you don't have them? Can you negotiate for some? Yes or no? Unfortunately, we've seen many physicians who don't have student loans, whether it's because they had somebody pay for them or they worked hard, or or they're coming in 5 years after and they busted their to get their student loans taken care of in 5 years. But new grads are getting student loan reimbursement and they're not. Can you ask for additional incentives? 100% yes. They're not obligated to receive or to give them to you. That would be one of those things I would sort of pound my fist on. You're willing to give a new grad, I'm going to make numbers up, a base salary of $350,000 and $60,000 of student loan reimbursement over the next 3 years, plus a $25,000 bonus for starting, and then a $15,000 relocation. You're offering me $350,000, same salary. You're offering me a $25,000 bonus on the first day, same signing bonus, and some relocation, same thing. But they're getting an extra $20,000 amortized per year just because they have student loans. That all falls into what an employer would call fair market value and TCC, or total cash compensation. So you should have that conversation with your employer and ask for that $20,000 in some form or another. If you're not receiving student loan reimbursement because the employer doesn't offer it, that's a different story. You could ask them to encourage them to offer it, as that may be a way to retract or attract and retain great talent like yourself. And you could let them know Contract Diagnostics say they're seeing these more and more, and we predict more and more will come in 2025. So you could inspire your employer to offer it to you as a first start, and then everyone after you, of course, would be entitled to that same benefit. Maybe it means you take less of a salary. So maybe instead of a $350 salary, you take a salary of $325, but they give you $100,000 up front and forgive it over 2 years. So in essence, it's a win. Maybe they tax it a certain different way. So understand how that's structured as well. It could be a double win. But you can definitely ask for student loans if you have them and it's not being offered, or if you don't have student loans, they're offering it to others, you can ask for those incentives in other ways. So that's a big topic of student loans. We encourage everyone to have that conversation. Another question we had is, maybe, I want to say it's more complicated, but I'll be brief in my answer. It talks about compensation. It talks about the physician. They contacted us and they received compensation data, our internal data blended with some MGMA data, and they were having a conversation with the employer, and the employer said, we don't trust your data. We're not giving your data any voice. We use our own proprietary custom blend, and they just basically shut the physician down. And so they were asking, are there different benchmarks of MGMA that the employer could use? How could an employer view or look at a data set differently? And the answer is a lot of different ways. So if we look at MGMA in total, we've got a national all practice data set, right? So cardiology in the United States, this is everybody that took the survey. Then of course there's all practice. Then there's hospital-based, there's private practice, there's under 250,000, over 250,000, over 1 million. There's a federally qualified and non-federally qualified. There's an academic data set. So you can see how a hospital-employed position in a town of 650,000 people could be classified as many different sections on that MGMA report. Again, they could be looking at the national data set, they could be looking at the regional data set, they could be looking at the minor geographical data, or even a state level data, depending on what they're looking at. And in each one of those categories, they could be looking at a subcategory. Again, all practice data, hospital-based, private practice, fill in the blank, fill in the blank. There's a lot of different metrics. So MGMA does not say cardiologist in this city, this is the number. It breaks it all out. There's multiple different ways to choose. My whole point on this one, when you're having a conversation with your employer and they're referencing something, MGMA, they're referencing Sullivan-Cotter, they're referencing a data set, get a copy of it. Ask them what data set they're using. Ask them if they're going on the median. Ask them if they're using all practice, if they're using a large group, if they're using a hospital employed model. Ask them if they're structuring it in cardiology general or if they're looking at EP specific. Ask them if there's nothing in the cardiology data set, as an example, that focuses on an imager, okay? There's nothing that breaks something like that out. There's nothing that breaks out a 1099 contractor. There is data that breaks out male and female pay, but they generally don't report on that, although they should. The employers, I should say, don't generally comment on that, although they should. So there's lots of different ways to look at MGMA. And I will just say that the point here, everybody, is if the employer is giving you grief on the data set that you have, question theirs. Ask why it's better. Ask where they pulled it from. Ask what makes it more impactful or more accurate. Ask why they used it and get a copy of it for review. Feel free to send it to us for analysis, and we can hop on the phone with you and discuss why they're looking at it a certain way and give you counterpoints with how to negotiate against it. We could talk all day long about MGMA data, how to structure things, how to view things, the benefits and the risks with the data set. But unfortunately, these are small coffee and contract discussions, and we don't have an extra hour today. But keep posted to Contract Diagnostics. We'll post a lot on this topic. And again, I'm John. If we can help, reach out. ContractDiagnostics.com. We love doing this stuff, and we'll be here as you need.